like you're in some kind of sports car.
Like, wow. I'm sitting in our Somodome.
Okay.
I figured it's our little meditation pod.
Even better.
Cool.
This is my like little happy space.
I could use that about now. All right, everybody. Well, I'm Joanna Roche. I'm the Executive Director of GSN. Welcome. Megan's in the control room working her magic as she does every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. And this week we are really blessed to have a few of our board members and our good friend John, who is joining us from Denver. So Natasha is with us. Prybyla, she is from Sloco. She's in Southern California. Suzy Bordeaux-Johlfs is here somewhere. I don't see her, but I know she's here. She's from Northern California, and everyone is going to be talking about the reopening and then the immediate closing. I know Thor is also on here, and he is also closed. John's in Denver. I don't think you're closed. So I think for the purposes of how this is going to go today, everybody is able to speak. But Megan will be strict if need be. So for now, you can listen and then unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. But I think what we could do is we'll start with Natasha, then we'll go to Suzy, then we'll go to John, and you guys could just give us a little update on where you are and what's happening and what kinds of issues you're facing. Folks who want to jump in can ask questions, okay? And then Megan and I will just sort of help moderate. So we'll get started. I want to start with the California folks because they're kind of in a unique position. So Natasha, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and then take it away?
Yeah, like Joanna said, my husband and I own Sloco Massage in San Luis Obispo, which is halfway in between San Francisco. Our numbers have been pretty low up until very recently, and even though the state allowed us to open as soon as I think it was like June 19th, and you know, they gave us a week to prepare and make all these changes after like publishing their guidelines. Our county public health director basically said that she did not recommend performing any services that require close contact. So even though we had this permission, we basically had someone that specializes in public health being like, now is not the time to be doing those things. So thankfully, we had invested over the past year in different pieces of equipment that provide services that don't require close contact. And so we basically opened, starting with those services. And probably took us about 2 weeks to get ready. And then we started doing a like soft opening solely to our membership base. And as soon as we got comfortable, we drafted an email to go out to everyone on our email list saying, all right, we're open, this is what we're doing. And literally the next day, we found out that we were on the wait list, so now we are closed again. That email never went out. But that's kind of where we're at right now.
Joanna, you're muted. Let me see if I can do it myself.
Yeah, Natasha, I was saying that I think Thor had a really similar experience, meaning that he may have been open for a day or two before he also had to shut down the doors. And yeah. Suzy, Megan, can you see Suzy? Because I can't see her.
I can't see her, but Suzy, if you're calling in, just let us know you're here.
Yes. Well, maybe she isn't. So John, we're going to kick it over to you. John's in Denver, and he opened probably among the first of all of us, like to great success. So I can't wait to see how it's going for you.
You're right. We opened May 9th. It feels like 2.5 years ago, and it's been 2.5 months. So we opened May 9th, again, really short notice as well from our leaders in our area, week notice approximately. Opened extremely small, stripped us down to, to the bare bones just so we could get the items moving. Massage is really only to start. Since then, we have included both express and classic nail services. All of our hair services are available. We're at almost all of our 55 and 85-minute massages at this point, no hot stones anywhere. And facials actually came back online for us here in Denver County toward the beginning of the month. So we are offering facials currently. That outline really looks like a shield and a mask. The guest obviously takes their mask off to perform this facial. It's an interesting guideline, but we follow it. We did reclose, but not for COVID reasons. We reclosed for rioting and vandalism reasons for about 4 days. And I feel for you, the people that have opened and had to reclose, because the challenge of opening is, it's exciting challenge and learning all the new things. But boy, the hit of having to reclose, I know even on the handful of days, we were closed 4 days, that we had to close, it was tough. It was tough to get the momentum kind of going again. And so I don't envy the position of that starting, stopping, and then of course what will be a restart again. And so anything I can do to be here to help and support, I'm happy to do.
Awesome. And Suzy, are you in yet? No. Ooh. You're muted again, Joanna.
Maybe Thor, if you're listening, you might want to jump in. Okay. Well, let's keep going. And we will say, so one of the questions I have is, like, now what? So for Natasha, really, now what do you do?
And that's kind of what we're trying to figure out. Our county, a lot of the services that we offer whole body cryotherapy. We just got a red light therapy bed. We also have halotherapy or dry salt therapy, and what I'm sitting in is Somadome. And all of these things, you're in and out in less than 20 minutes. You know, it just takes someone in with you for a very short period of time to get someone set up in their service, and then they're kind of on their own. And all of these treatments are in separate rooms, so there isn't a lot of people intermingling. And so we feel like this is something that we could do safely, and we really, you know, just like everyone in this industry, we really value the services that we provide. And so we're hoping, because we work so closely with the chiropractor, we have a chiropractor next door, and probably my guess is maybe like 50 of his patients actually come over here for services. We have doctors that actually come here for cryotherapy that have issues with arthritis, that they feel like it helps them, you know, do their surgeries more precisely and with strain. And so we really feel like we are going to try to argue that we are an essential business and that we can modify operations to operate safely and eliminate close contact services until our public health department actually feels like it's okay. And John, I know one of the times that you talked at one of these webinars before, you had mentioned that, you know, some were scared and like didn't want to come back, and that's kind of what we're facing right now too. Is, you know, they might be fine one day, and then maybe someone in their circle end up getting sick and not being fine. And we're a small company. Like at our peak, we had, you know, 15 employees. No one was on call. Everyone was, you know, working 4 or 5 days a week. And so we don't have this backlog of therapists that we can go down the list and call to fill appointments. And so logistically, appointment-based services that do require a service provider, I think, are going to be a little far off from us. So I think right now our goal is just to focus on building a small team to help run this in a way that everyone can feel comfortable, and just focus on different services and different ways we can help people outside of massages and facials, because that was 80% of our revenue before. So just trying to pivot, I guess, just like everyone else, just trying to figure things out.
Right, right. And John, one of the questions coming on from here is how safe do you feel the staff is with facials happening?
Is that a personal question? You know, I know I'll go with guidelines are being followed. How safe are the guidelines, I think, become the question. You know, as I've been on these calls and watching the information roll in from other areas, you know, touch and interaction is obviously I think the height of our concerns right now. And you start taking off the mask, and now you've taken one barrier off of a person. You know, if you're asking me as a person, you know, I think that a massage with a mask on the entire time is safer than a facial with a mask off on the guest and a shield and a mask on the esthetician. It has come down to, and Natasha, you kind of mentioned this, talking about staff coming back. It applies to the guests as well. Some of these guests are extremely comfortable, too comfortable coming through our door. And some of the guests haven't left their house yet. We won't see them for several months still. You know, if you're talking a personal aspect, I've had a facial since we've started offering them again. I feel comfortable with my staff, and I know them, you know, personally on that day-to-day basis, and so I have comfort there. If I were a guest coming into a bunch of randoms, as we would be to those guests, you know, my concern level on a facial would be higher than on a massage, I think is the answer I'd like to give you there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think, Thor, you might be back. So do you want to speak a little bit about what's happened for you up in Northern California?
Sure. Well, true to form, there's road work going on in front of Osmosis right now. So thank God we're closed, because it's jackhammering left and right. But we reopened for massage with limited hours, because we went ahead and did a renovation. So we opened June 22nd and did evening appointments Monday through Friday, and then all day on Saturday and Sunday. Then introduced facials July 4th, which from a customer standpoint, we're about 50% of our business levels doing facials the week that we ended up having to close. So guests were definitely ready to come back and get facials. I will tell you, the staff confidence, which was again much higher for massage therapists for the reasons that John cited, is once someone's got a barrier removed, there's that, and they're working near the areas where you're not supposed to touch, that the staff was a little less confident in doing facials, but performed them well. We had no issues. So we're now in a position where we could remain open doing outdoor services. So we're pivoting a little bit, looking to see if we can't facilitate that. So we've got something going on here once all this road construction is done.
Right, right. That makes sense. I just have a question for the group in general that I think would be a interesting thing to discuss. Has anybody had the situation where you've had a staff member actually come down with coronavirus? And if you have, what have you done? What have you had to do about it? I mean, that's I think a question for the general group.
We have our staff we have 2 people employed right now, and no one's been sick, so haven't come across that yet.
And John, what about you?
I have 18 on staff right now. Obviously, we're doing the protocols, temp checks and whatnot beforehand. I do encourage my staff, take your temperature at home before you even come to work, because if you're at the threshold, I'm going to send you home anyway. I'm a really easy phone call right now.
Right.
Yeah, I fortunately have not had any instances of that. Really, and in all transparency, the only negative I've had is one guest absolutely refusing to wear a mask, to which we just in turn said that we wouldn't offer them the service.
Right. Great. Anybody else want to jump in on that question? Because I do know this is happening out there. There are situations.
We had, at the height of everything being reopened, 25 employees back and no instances whatsoever.
Yeah, now someone is sharing with the group that they have had 15 staff and have been open since June 15th with no cases. Just a few people who seem to hate the masks. Yeah. Oh, and Suzy, I think, has joined us. So Suzy, thank you for coming. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about what your experience has been as well.
Absolutely, and I apologize for my delay. Thank you so much. You know, this has been just quite an event for everybody with the openings and the closings, and I think my advice would be just to surrender to it and prepare. So just know it's going to close after you open, and you're just gonna have to manage through it, and it's going to be okay because we'll all do it together. You know, my successes have been just putting together really good guidelines in all the areas. You just need to think about as much as you can, just big lists of what guests can do, can't do, and then lists of kind of scenarios of what it looks like from a guest perspective, kind of like a sequence of service so that your staff has a bigger picture in mind and can play that role for you successfully.
And have you had any instances where you've had a person on your staff or a guest who's tested positive?
We haven't had any instances of anybody testing positive, but we've had lots of incidences of people knowing people that have been exposed to people that have tested positive. And so what they do is they go out for the 14-day quarantine, and then you just have to be without them for a while. And nobody has tested though positive, and they've returned to work.
Wow.
So as we keep going further and further into this, more people are going to know people, and you just have to be prepared for that. So cross-training is really important. Set yourself up for success.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say that I have known some folks who have had this, and I'm also in a highly populated tourist area right now. And the cases have been on the uptick, and the places where they have had exposure, the businesses have to shut down for 2 weeks. So that's just happened. There was a case of a waiter at a restaurant who exposed like 70 people. That just happened. So there are these things that are happening. Yeah. Yes, I'm just reading the questions. All right, so what about tips that you can share with the group in terms of preparing, right? Because now you guys have, some of you have done this now twice. Tell us a little bit about what you're preparing your teams for and what are the things that are important to them. Suzy, why don't we start with you, and then we'll go back to Natasha and John.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'm preparing my team to be ready to go outside. We are trying to activate some activity because, you know, we're very unique in the sense that we have country club members. So we have membership dues that we have to provide value for, or why pay the dues. So within the guidelines of what we're allowed to do, I'm trying to set up some manicure tables, you know, and call it manicures in the morning, you know, outside of the salon, and do it in the time of the day where it's not too hot. And then also trying to get the massage therapists back now to do some chair massages, and to start off that way, do that outside. Also, you know, just I think some of, like I mentioned before, is just, you know, you have to kind of think of it from a guest perspective. How are you creating value for them too? And just, you know, we had already put a bunch of processes in place from the arrival experience to how to check them out. And those you just keep doing the same procedures, but you may need to just change them a little bit because now the rules have changed slightly. So I think that's pretty much what I can share there in that area. But we're looking forward to, you know, we just kind of ebb and flow, be flexible, and keep your sense of humor.
Right. That's probably a key
Yeah.
ingredient. Natasha, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Suzy that being flexible and just kind of rolling with it is going to be key because there's always going to be changes. I thought it was funny in California, they were saying, you know, the state was like, yeah, you can do outdoor services. And then the state board was like, no, you cannot do outdoor services. And then 2 days later, the state board was like, yeah, no, it's okay. Here's your new guidelines. So you kind of just have to laugh at how quickly things are changing. The other thing I would say is like order something 2 months before you think you might need it, because everything is taking so long to cure. Our hand sanitizer, automatic hand sanitizer dispensers that we bought for each room and each entrance of the spa finally came in, and I ordered those in May. So we just got those installed. But I would also just try to talk to your guests and figure out why they're coming in. A lot of spas are, you know, running at lower capacity because they have to kind of space things out. But if there's, you know, a way to help, you know, your guests achieve specific, you know, goals that they're coming in for, that maybe really just don't feel comfortable getting hands-on services, look for opportunities to offer something different. Because I think, honestly, like, I know it's not a good fit for a lot of spas, but even something like those hydro massage table beds, just like something to give people some sort of alternative option, for those that are just a little nervous or uncomfortable.
Yeah. John, what about you?
The one that I recommended, and I love low cost, high impact, aromatherapy in those silly paper masks. I get phenomenal feedback every time I hand somebody a little paper mask with aromatherapy in it. Give them to everybody. But getting back to how to open, the guidelines of getting set up, you know, I've said this for a little while, is put all your best effort into getting your guidelines and all your new protocols and everything set up, and get the doors open when you can, because I'll guarantee you that first day you're going to make changes, and the second day you're going to make changes, and the third and fourth, and every day after that. As we all hope somewhere down the road, every restriction is lifted 6 months, a year, whatever that looks like at this point for us. We will have to continue to change every day. We do have to roll with the punches, be flexible, be fluid, however we want to put that. And I'll tell you what's developed into me 2.5 months in at the moment now is right now, one of my biggest challenges is actually keeping especially my technical staff, on point for what the current protocols or procedures are. They're now used to this business. They're now used to the business level being booked 75% of their shift at least on there. And I can see and feel them start sliding back into some old habits and some things that, you know, obviously worked back 3-4 months ago, but don't work in today's climate. And so that becomes the challenge right now, is that the guidelines that I put out originally have changed 100% virtually. So I try to keep everybody on point, on the same page. But right now it is a challenge to make sure that we're all headed the same direction.
Right. Right. Are there any, John, products that you found that you've used that are super helpful? I'm going to ask all of you that question, by the way.
I'll start with, and Natasha, I agree, is the ones that I can get through the door. Boy, I'm hitting back orders on pretty much any sanitation wipe that you want. You're going to have a tough time getting right now. I fortunately had about 15 gallons of barbicide and Marvicide sitting around that I'd ordered just before we closed, looking that there was going to be some sanitation issues coming at us. So that's been one of my bigger product items. But as far as the cleaning sanitation side, if you're using wipes on things, I don't care which wipe it is, start ordering, because you're going to have a tough time finding them. And really for us, I won't say it's been a specific product. For us, it's really been reworking our flow and how we move people through our facility. Yes, we're on a limited capacity, but in all reality, I would have never been able to have a full capacity. We would have been on top of each other back in the day at 45 people in my facility. At 22, it winds up as a nice flow, but it does look very different from what it did prior. So I don't have a specific product, but it really is about reworking how we do business. My biggest statement to that is whatever spa you had before back in March and you closed, you didn't reopen the same thing. It's different.
Right, right. Natasha, what about you? Any products you want to recommend?
I definitely recommend Benefect Decon 30. It's actually a botanical disinfectant that effective in 30 seconds. I know a lot of people are using like disinfectants that have to sit on the surface for 10 minutes before you can actually wipe it off and have it do its job. And 10 minutes is really expensive in our industry. So having that quick turnaround definitely makes things a lot easier. I like it because you could literally drink it and not have to run to poison control. So I definitely appreciate that about it. Other than that, like when the short time that we were open, I really liked having some like immune boosting products on the shelf, like Beepers Naturals, or like we have a local woman that makes elderberry syrups. And it's amazing like how much people are prioritizing that right now. It's not amazing. It's a good thing. So those have definitely been nice things to have on the shelf too. I've also really appreciated, I think it's Oakworks, I'm not sure, but they have our hydraulic tables didn't have table warmer built into it, and removing that from the table was a major bummer. So we actually purchased these like 2-inch memory foam type table warmers that have, I forgot what the material is, but like the same material that covers a massage table on there, so we can actually wipe it down and have it be safe. So I've liked being able to keep heat on the table still for when we're going to be doing massages.
Okay, awesome. Suzy, what about you?
Thank you. A lot of our vendors came up with some really great hand sanitizers. So some really nice ones out there that just smell better than the traditional ones that you get from, some of the other vendors. And it seems like everybody's getting kind of picky about hand sanitizers, because sometimes when you run out, you have to make them out of different products, and people have been using, alcohol in the market. And anyway, so, I just suggest get a brand for the spa treatment area, which smells fabulous, and then you don't have to be as it's not save the other one for the team members that are cleaning, so that you have enough, because it's a very valuable commodity, hand sanitizers. I also noticed spray bottles go really fast, especially when you're doing mixing. We collaborate with the resort, of course, and we have Ecolab there, so we use a product called Ecolab number 14, and it's a concentrate, but you have to be able to dilute it. And so spray bottles are really difficult to find too. I don't know if anybody's tried to find those, but again, try and make sure you're supplied there. I found a good vendor for plexi screens that you can put on the not massage, but manicure tables. And they're portable. They look really, really great. I think it was Lux Spa was the name, but I have to go back and find the vendor for you. But it was very inexpensive, and it was actually cheaper to just buy it outright than try and get somebody's engineering department to try and make one for you. So that was a good find there. And then gloves, it's just that one is the tricky one, because it's hard to watch how many gloves are being used. To try and get the eco brands, so that they could be disposed of correctly, because I think those are the ones we really use the most of. Masks, I would say try and get a collection of them, and don't buy too many of one kind, because you're never going to know what the therapists want to use, because everybody's a little different. Not one mask fits everyone. And so, be careful. Just caution you to watch out if you're buying the cloth ones in mass quantities, that you may want a collection of a few for the team members to pick from. And then the other one, you could call it a supply, but it's a uniform. When you think about your front desk now, they're going to be a lot more functional. They're not necessarily going to want to be in heels or, an elegant dress as we traditionally would in a spa. Now you need to put them in kind of a little bit more of a, maybe logo wear, something a little more active, because as soon as they check the guests in, they're locker attendants and they're cleaning up after people. And because everybody's being multiple, they're trained in everything now, just think of that maybe as an option for you to look at, try and make your staff comfortable, through this environment that we have now.
Right. Very good advice. Very good advice. What has it been like with the training, right? Because I've heard a bunch of different comments about the training to the standards being difficult. I think John already alluded to that since they changed so much. But did you do the training as a group, or did you do training in modules? Like, how did you attack the training as you were bringing folks back? And maybe Suzy, we'll start with you and reverse the order here.
Okay, sure. Well, in the resort, we actually trained, we recorded a 2-hour training on just safety and COVID, and it kind of was an overview of what to expect coming back from work, coming back from their leave. So that was the first thing they did, was they sat and they watched that for 2 hours. And then after that, we did, Debbie, everybody in the massage team, our supervisor, with the new standards and procedures. And so we had them all as a group in a function room, 6 feet apart from each other, and did that correctly. And then they went into the treatment rooms after the classroom session, and then they went in and they did practicing, setting up their workstations, role playing. I think that's really all you can do. And then just get their feedback and make adjustments. And just know that they have to be part of the guidelines that you're doing, so they have to understand it very well in order for that to be successful.
Okay, got it. Natasha.
We had actually started to move towards creating an online training platform that we're calling our little Sloco Academies. That way when people come on board, they basically just do this online training at their own pace, and then we review it with them when they're done. And so now what we're doing is we're basically adding sections on new protocols and like understanding the difference between cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting, and making sure that everyone has consistent information. And we use this platform called Talent LMS to do that, and they can actually have the app on their phone. So whenever we update protocols, we'll just delete the old module, update the new one, and then they'll know that it's something that needs to be reviewed. So since we're smaller, I'm actually having our team work on building that together right now. So I kind of told them what our goal was that we need to be aware of. We reviewed the state guidelines together, and then, like John was saying, we put protocols into place, and then we kept on modifying them like as we needed to. So I definitely love the idea. I know that you had sent the Rejuvenate has an online course as well on disinfecting, and I started looking at that too. I think that's great. Like, the more you can make sure that people have consistent, like, correct quality information, why not kind of delegate that to the experts? That works.
Right, exactly. John, what about you?
On our end, I work for a hotel management company, so of course they have their broad overview that all of my staff coming back had to watch. About 90% of that applies to the spa. There were some interesting moments in it. Getting back on board here ultimately was an overview of the guidelines that were outlined for what the before, during, and after service looked like. I did a walkthrough individually with each staff member, and really continue to have to come back to each staff member and continue to send out all these guidelines as we made all these little changes along the way. We did our first Zoom meeting, gosh, is that a week ago now? Right about that area. And I love these interactions and these opportunities to see everybody. I'm hoping for my staff, they wind up as an effective tool long-term to get information to them. But right now it has been really one-on-one, just making sure we get information to everybody. And having to, unfortunately, I know I've doubled back on a few people and hit them 2 or 3 times on the same information. But really, as a big piece of it is more communication is much better right now than missing any items.
Thor, do you want to jump into any of this piece in terms of the training? Don't see him.
Sure. So we worked on videos for each of the areas. We have we're fortunate to have a training director, so that was her task to work with the department heads to create those videos, and just did it via Zoom. So she created it by recording a Zoom session, and then could broadcast that at any point, which was really helpful and cost effective for us.
And how was people's reaction to the training in general?
Yeah, so after they watched the video and saw the protocols, then they came in and practiced, and they did that as a group, that was the most interesting part of it all, was the role playing and working out those scenarios, because once you put into practice what looked good on paper, you knew there had to be adjustments along the way. So that constant creativity around that and making things better, and eventually smoothed out to a point when they reclosed us, they were really hitting their stride and doing a great job. So I think we have those protocols set where people feel very safe.
And do you think that, I mean, because I listening to all of you guys talk, it seems like that this way of training could be the way of the future anyway. What do you guys think? Right, the online training, the Zoom training, less than
training is expensive and it's time consuming, and honestly, like I am the manager, and so the owner, and wearing like all of these hats, and so I was taking on the responsibility of training, and it's really exhausting, having to like repeat yourself that much, making sure that the information you provide is consistent. And so one of the reasons that we decided to make this shift was because I regularly heard, "Oh, you never told me that," or "I didn't know that." And now there's literally no excuse, because everyone is getting the same exact information. They can go at it at their own speed. They can review it as often as they want. And I understand that, like, if you haven't had to wear a certain hat to, like, complete a task in 6 months, you're probably not going to remember the exact protocol. And so that's why I really like the idea of having this online training, because it can be broken down into different modules. They can go, gosh, Natasha told me to clean the sauna, but I have no clue how to do that. So let me just look it up, and well, congratulations, there's a video with step-by-step instructions, like all the products you need, like what needs to be done. And so I think it will also help empower employees too, because they have all the answers there, and so they can learn more as they go. And I think we're going to be doing that with product knowledge too. We're just going to build courses on that too, because I feel like the more people know about products, obviously, on the shelf, that will just help everyone. So I definitely think that being able to kind of automate the training process and make sure that everyone has a really great onboarding experience is going to be really important. I came across a statistic recently that said 80% of the people that view their onboarding experience as positive end up staying with the company for at least 5 years. To me, that's worth it. So slow down, make sure they have all the information they need, and it'll pay off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Anyone else want to jump into that question?
I just wanted to say, I think what we've learned through this experience is that we haven't been using our technology to its best effort, right? So I think we've learned a lot about, I didn't even know, honestly, and sorry to say this, but I never even heard of Zoom until this started. And then now I'm like, wow, this is really cool. You can even record things, and gosh, it's limitless now, all the opportunities that we have. And that we've had very good feedback with the staff on training, with just being able to do it at home too. And we pay them their 2 hours, because we're doing the cosmetology board, like the Milady, I believe, some of those.
Do you want to open up your snorkel?
So yeah, that's been very helpful.
Good. All right, so what I'd love to do is to open it up to the audience to ask questions of each of you, or you ask questions of whomever you like, and just finish out the time that way. So I don't know, Natasha or Suzy, do you have questions from anybody else here? Or John, do you have a question? Feel free to.
I want to jump in on the training real quick on that. I love a lot of these ideas, and I think that the long-term aspects is great. I believe in part of that original question was kind of this: how's the staff feel? And you know what? They feel nervous. I know that every single staff member, as they were we got done with that training, and we're looking each other in the eye and say, how you feel? And they're like, okay, I'm ready to get back in that room. That first service, that first massage, before it started, every single one of them said, I'm nervous. I'm not 100% confident. I am nervous. And I had to reiterate, here's the training we did, and here's what it covers. And they got in that room and did that service and then came out. And every single one of them felt confident afterwards. They felt that, hey, this is still their home. This is still their services. It's new and it's different. We have to do some different things to make it right and safe for all parties. But they are nervous going in that room, and it's completely acceptable. A lot has changed. And of course, what makes us the most nervous is the unknown. And until you experience it, find that it's positive, you can't necessarily be excited 100% about it. So right now, it is taking a lot of extra patience. It is taking a lot of extra work. But the end result has been really amazing on both the guest and the staff ends. And once we get past these first hurdles of getting our doors back open, making sure we can do the procedures right, getting everybody trained on it, the love that's coming back out of it is more than I've actually seen prior in our industry. And it's really exciting to see, because I think guests now even appreciate more so the efforts that's going in to keep making a great environment for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good point. All right, folks, questions? Anything else you want to share or discuss? Anyone? Anyone? Sometimes I feel like we're coroned to death.
I got one.
Okay, go for it.
It's a tiny bit off topic, but I'm just going to throw it out there, and I may or may not be the right forum, so I apologize if it's not. One of the big issues going on around us in our industry is, actually in our planet, let me phrase that, is communication, starts with communication. I believe it goes into race communication as well, and I'll take the leap. I have a female African-American massage therapist on my team, and she is really wanting to be able to open up a forum that we can communicate about what it's like to be in our industry, of course, what it's like to be a male or female in our industry, also what it's like to be of different cultures in our industry. She's definitely had experience as an African-American female massage therapist that my Caucasian ones haven't, my male therapists. You all know where the answers go from there. And I see value in that on the bigger picture, but I see value in our industry because in all reality, I'm a bit of an anomaly in our industry. I'm a guy. I'm a straight guy in our industry. It makes me even a weirder one in here. And so I put it out there because right now is a time when we need to have more acceptance and we need to have more communication. And we all need to understand that we're ignorant of some things out there, where everybody's ignorant of something. And we need to learn more. And I throw it out to this group that it doesn't touch directly on the base of why we're here today, but I think there is value in our industry and obviously on the bigger picture for that. And I have taken a big left turn on our original conversation, but I guess the question I have at the end of that is, am I alone?
Well, so I will happily say thank you for bringing that up. I think that it's a timely and appropriate topic in every sense, and it was brave of you to take the chance and introduce it. So I think you're absolutely right. There's a place for it, and there needs to be some conversation about it. I know there are some folks who have been looking at ways to do that, but I haven't really seen anything materialize yet. And I think there does need to be some leadership in this area. So anybody else? Natasha, Suzy, Thor, feel free to jump in.
Yeah, John, you're not alone. This is definitely not going to go away. and something, you know, within our industry. And I think we have a very warm and welcoming industry, but that's from my perspective. And we need to hear the perspective of people not like me.
Right.
One of the best presentations at iSpa last year, yeah, it's at least a year ago, was about transgender guests and making them feel welcome. If you can look that up, it was an excellent presentation, but it really applies for all people, and it's making people anticipating what their needs are. But that ability to do that only comes from conversation. So this has got to be a conversation we hold regularly, you know, from peer to peer. And that will make our ability to anticipate our guest needs that much better.
I think I'd like to, since I'm here in Minneapolis, where this uprising began, I think it's really important to bring up, I think that I've been a body worker for 29 years and in this industry for a long time, and I'm an Aveda baby. So I've been aware of cultural appropriation based on the fact that I was raised in working directly with Horst Rechelbacher and how he built his brand off of Ayurveda. So I'm aware of all of it, and I also recognize that we all practice ancient methods, which also brings us to being culturally open and being open to race. I think it's really an important topic that we should do another meeting on and try to get some people in that can guide us.
I think that's a great idea, Nell, and thank you for suggesting that. If folks have so there is, and absolutely, I think this is important. I love that this came up. I think this is the organic nature of bringing a community together and talking about the things that are affecting us right now. So thank you all, and we will work our best to find a way to bring this forward and to find a good facilitator. So thank you. Anybody else have any comments, questions, concerns? I do see a question here about wondering if there is a way to do a facial with the guest wearing a mask. I am not sure about that, but I will let you guys discuss it. Suzy, I see you smiling.
Yeah, let me just unmute. Yeah, that one's, I think, you know, they've got some great shields out there. I don't see that ever being possible with a mask on. I mean, the technician has to wear a mask, but there's shields that you can buy that that can go over the table so that the therapist or the esthetician is protected. That was part of that same company that I think I have to find the vendor out, but you know, it wasn't very expensive. It was an $80 investment, and your staff member feels comfortable. I haven't been able to figure out how to do one with a mask on a guest, but somebody else might be able to.
Hey, this is Maggie. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Hi, Maggie.
Sorry, my computer's all cruddy. We're actually, the SOS Spa project, we've gotten so many requests for that. There's a company out of Canada, that we actually found this morning that has these masks that are actually made out of physio tape. They're strapless masks. And so we have some being sent to us because currently, you know, the physio tape, when you take the backing off, the whole thing is tape. Basically, you leave the backing on, the wax backing across your face. But we think we can find a solution so it's breathable, and it covers your nostrils, your mouth, and it can go, you know, under your lips or under your chin. And I think it'll be a really great solution. Regular physio tape that you get at Dick's Sports or something, I think is too narrow. But that seems to be the direction. I can't believe a skincare company hasn't come out with kind of a little option to just cover the nostrils and mouth, because they would drive revenues for sure if they could figure out how to do that.
All right. Anybody else? Thanks, Maggie. I agree. That would be a great idea. All right, folks, that might be it for today. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it, all of your participation and energy and conversation around what's happening in the world and our reopening. So thank you, Megan, for working the controls as ever, and to our panelists. And we will see you next Tuesday. And we're going to try to bring brands on next Tuesday. We are bringing brands on next Tuesday to talk about what they are doing in terms of supplying you all. And we can try to talk about some of the shortage of supplies and sort of see what other new and exciting things are coming out there. All right. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Be well.
Thanks, everyone.